Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jillian and this is Simply Budgets. Today I wanted to sit down and have some real talk about our debt. So my husband and I started cash stuffing in October of last year, and I will admit he wasn't as bought into it as I was hoping originally, and that is sometimes the reality is that one person is going to be more committed to it than another. And I guess committed isn't really the word that I should be using, because it's not like he hasn't done the work. I'm just not sure it was until this month that he actually saw the benefit of doing this. So recently we sat down and we went through and we looked at everything that we had in debt. The number was scary. Like, if anybody needs a reality check, sit down and write out the numbers, because it really makes you think twice about the way you've been spending, the habits you've had. I know for myself, I am a careless spender. I love the hit of dopamine that buying something new gets me, and I can't tell you how many things we have in our home that I purchased because I thought I was going to use it and then didn't. I also have this, I love projects. So I will get really invested into something and I want to have all the tools that go with doing that hobby or something. And then eventually, whether it be short term or over the long term, the joy of doing that wears off, and then I need to find something else that gives me that same feeling that I get from doing and learning something new. So I will admit that a lot of the problem is with me, and I'm working on that. And this reality check that we had in October was something that we really needed. We basically had sat down with our financial advisor, and she told us that if we carry on the way we're going, we are never going to be able to retire. We are never going to have any savings. We are going to be drowning in debt because we make good money, but we spend more than we make. So we just needed to make some changes. So I wanted to walk through with you guys because I have my numbers from October on a sheet, but I want to start the year fresh with new numbers. I want to look at where I really want to be able to, at the end of the year, sit down and measure the progress. I want to be able to set goals and reach them. And I think that the work that we did in October was a great starting point, but I think that it's time to start the year fresh and start new. So I wanted to bring you guys along on that journey of how I make those plans. Now, my husband is not here, but he did sit down and did have input in these numbers. So these aren't things that I've just come up with on my own. This is a team effort. We are a partnership. We are in this regardless of who carries the majority of the debt. We are a team and we will take care of paying this off together. So, and if anybody has any questions about this, this is just something that I created on Canva. It is not available anywhere. But if there is enough interest, I might look at opening an Etsy shop and potentially having them available. But for right now, these are just things that I have done for myself. I've looked at a lot of different budget planners and I have kind of put together what works for me. So I'm just going to set this off to the side because I find it really hard to write while things are in a binder. And I am a page, I like to turn my page, so I just want to make sure that you all can see everything. So, let's see where to start. I'll set these other pages aside and we'll go over those in a minute. So I recommend sitting down and just list in, and this is not what it looked like the first time we sat down. It literally was a scrap piece of paper and our phone in hand and looking at all of the apps or pulling up bank statements and figuring out where we were at with these things. It doesn't have to be fancy like this. The key is that you just start. Taking that first step is sometimes the hardest because we don't really want to know how bad our situation is. It's so much easier for us to just sit and pretend that things don't exist, but nothing's going to change if you don't make changes. So we'll start at the top. We have a credit card of mine. This is a Capital One card. So that would be here. As the creditor, the due date for these is the 15th of every month. Current balance is $1,140.56. Interest rate is 19.99%. Minimum payment is $28. And the goal to have this paid off is March of 2024. So these are all numbers as of January 1st. We sat down when we were talking about this and looked at all of our numbers earlier this week. So this is where we're at with that. I will say that even though it shows an interest rate of 19.99%, with this credit card, I actually have never had an interest bill on it or payment due on it, because it says that if you pay off the amount owing within a year, that they don't charge interest. So I've always made, this is the credit card that I try to keep down the lowest. I don't use it very often. It is kind of like the backup card, but over Christmas it did get used quite a bit. So my goal is to have that back to zero. There's no benefit from this card. I don't get any rewards from using it. It is just a credit card that I've had forever. So we'll have that one paid off and then we'll no longer use it. There is also a Visa that we have. This one's also in my name, but this is where a lot of our like recurring payments, like our oil is put on this credit card. Our propane gets automatically put onto this. Costco membership is automatically put onto this credit card. So anything that we have that's recurring that we pay by credit card, because that got us points, goes on this credit card. So this is with our bank, Royal Bank of Canada. It is due on the 16th, and this is the credit card that scares me. So so these are January 1st, and I will say this number is actually a little bit lower than this now, but I will write it down because this is what it was for January 1st, and I want these to be accurate when we look back. So $11,538.52 is what's on that. The interest rate is 20.99%. Atrocious. Minimum payment is $199. And I will tell you, I looked up what the interest rate is, and the interest rate is $198. Like the interest payment for 1 month is $198. So that means that I need to make $199 plus $198 each month in order to make any difference in this card. Because if I only made my minimum payment, only $1 is going to my principal. There is nothing going, like, because everything else is going to the interest. So I always make sure that when we make payments on this, that we account for $400 at minimum to go on this card each month. And that's something that, you know, you need to be aware of, is that these, like these numbers, like if I hadn't sat down and looked at it, I wouldn't know that if we only made our minimum payment, that only $1 is going onto the principal. We would never get out of debt from this if we only ever made our minimum payment. So it's really important to look at things and really monitor what you're spending and be aware of how much interest you are being charged on things. So we sat down. This is a very lofty goal. We are hoping to be out of this debt by December of 2024. I will explain why we have put that as our goal date in a little bit. It will become clearer in a moment. So we have Graham's credit card next. That is also a Capital One card. It is due on the 12th of each month. It has an interest rate of 19.99% as well. We had a starting balance of $8,242.92. His minimum payment, I for some reason do not have that written down, but I believe that is $150. I don't know why I didn't write it down, but I think that's what it is. And our goal payoff date for this one is also December of 2024. Maybe unrealistic, and that's fine. We then have our car payment. It is with TD Auto. It is actually paid bi-weekly, so there's not actually a monthly due date for this one. And the starting balance was $957. We are so close to paying off this car. And 7 years ago, or almost 7 years ago, when I got this car, I had terrible credit. I have done a lot of work to bring my credit back up. I'm very proud of my credit score right now, but that just means that people are willing to give me more credit, which means that it's easier for me to go into debt. So, if I was to go get a car right now, I would really hope that I wouldn't have a 9.1% interest, but we've been paying on it for 7 years now. Our minimum payment is $180 per week, and this is actually due to be paid off April 1st of 2024. So excited for that car to be paid off. We have a line of credit. Unfortunately, last year we had a large unexpected expense. I mean, we knew it was coming. It's just, if you've been on our channel before, you know we live in a century home. Our house is, I think, 180, but it's definitely 150. So it's anywhere between 150 and 180 years old. There's a barn, a 2-story, 20 by 40 barn on our property. Actually, I think it's 30 by 40. And unfortunately, the previous owners didn't maintain the foundation. It had a stone foundation under 3/4 of it, and then the backside actually just had pilings in the ground, and they weren't dug down far enough. So anytime the ground froze, they heaved, and the supports at the back of the barn actually, I don't know if this makes any sense, but instead of being straight like this, I don't even know if you can see that, they were like this. So our barn was about to fall into the ground. We do not have animals in it, but it is essentially our garage. It has 2 bays in it. It has a full upstairs. My husband's tools are in it, all of this stuff. And so we made the decision that it needed to at least be reinforced. And our plan, or our idea, we were very naive in this, was that we were going to be able to do the work for between $15,000 and $20,000. We learned very quickly that we could not just put a block wall underneath of it. The masons in our area said that wasn't doable. The county wouldn't approve us for that. So we ended up having to have building lifters come in. They lifted the building. This was a whole 6-month process. So they lifted the building. We had to excavate underneath of it. We couldn't find anybody to do the work locally for us to do the excavation and not charge us $25,000 to do it. So, being the DIYers that we are, we decided to rent an excavator and have my father and brother teach us how to work the excavator, and we did the work ourselves for less than $5,000. But then we needed to find somebody to pour a foundation, so we actually had to put a full foundation underneath of it. And it ended up being significantly more expensive than that. So long story short, we now have a line of credit for $39,707.78, and literally every penny of this went to a foundation under that barn. So we love our home, we love our property, but word of caution to anybody looking to buy an old home, be aware to spend large sums of money. So anyway, we are working on paying that off. It's $234.55 that we pay each month on that, and that is just the minimum. And that is our goal is April of 2027 to have that paid off. We also have a consolidation loan. I'm not sure if anybody else in Canada is watching this, but I got a student line of credit for my education. And I was unaware that every time I was very, very diligent, and I couldn't understand, like I never missed payments. I couldn't understand why my credit was terrible until I went to a financial advisor, and they explained to me that the way student lines of credit for your education work is that you are given an amount of money, and then every time you make a payment, they decrease the available amount on it. So it looks like you are always maxed out on the amount of credit. So it looks like your utilization is always at 100%. I had no idea that was how that worked. I did have a small student loan that I also had, but it didn't cover nearly enough. And disclaimer, I have 2 degrees, so I had a lot of money owing on my education. So I've paid off about $45,000 in $25,000 in student loan debts to date. And this consolidation loan was actually, I had a small credit card balance at the time that I applied for this loan. And the bank recommended that I roll that small credit card in with my student line of credit amount owing. So that gave us a balance of $20,955.04. There's an interest rate of 5.45% on that. And we pay $117.40 per week on this amount. And it actually has a maturation date. So like everything on this, according to the structure of the loan, will be paid off by October 21st of 2025. So this will be paid off in full. So that $20,000 will be paid off in full by October 21st of 2025. So we actually have a plan to not pay any extra on this. We're just going to let this carry out its life as it is. Unless our financial situation changes and we do have more money available, I would love to pay it off, but one has a lower interest rate and has an end date in sight. This line of credit does not. It has a higher balance, a higher interest rate, and we really could carry that balance forever because it's a home equity line of credit. I don't want to. Having that line of credit out I really don't like having this kind of money out there. So this is going to be one of our priorities after the credit cards. And then we have a Home Depot card. The only reason we have a Home Depot card is because they allow you to, if you purchase anything over $200, they will do no interest, no payment for a specific amount of time. And last year we had to replace our dishwasher, and so we went to Home Depot and we purchased our new dishwasher. Actually, I think there was a dishwasher and a freezer purchased at the exact same time. So it has no interest, no payment until May of 2024. And so what we did is we sat down and looked at the total amount and worked it out so that we would pay $70 a week from the time we purchased those last year. And then that would mean that they were paid off before the due date. And so we would never ever pay any interest on that. And it kind of was just a way to finance replacing those appliances without having a significant financial hit to us at once. So this will be paid off, because if you don't pay it off by the due date, your interest rate goes to, I think it's like 21% and something. And then what that does is it's compounded interest. So it's not just like interest starts on the day that it's due. They backdate your interest from the day you financed those items on that card. So you will have, like, on the date that it's due, you immediately have a payment due of sometimes a couple $100s. Or it's an additional charge that they add on to the outstanding balance and then charge you monthly from there. So that is not something we wanted. So that's why we do that this way. So it'll be paid off in May. So our plan for our debt is, to pay off this credit card by March. Roll the amount. Now I've been paying, I think it's $500 on this, or I think actually, if I look at my monthly budget breakdown for this month, the goal is to have $720 paid on this. So it'll be paid off easily by the end of February. So when it's paid off, whatever amount we've been paying on this card, we're doing the snowball method, kind of. I know we're not following it 100%, because there are specific guidelines of how you pay it off, whether it be the highest interest or lowest balance. But we looked at it and we decided this card is not used very often, so let's pay it off. It has a small amount owing on it. Then we are going to move over to this credit card. We are going to roll the amounts that are being paid on this over to this card and continue on paying it. But at the same time, we also want to aggressively pay off this one. So because this card is, or this payment is going to be done in April, we would then roll the $360 a month that we pay on this over to what the $500 we pay every month on this. So then it would be $860 a month that we were paying on this. And then when it is paid off, then so this would go over here in April. When it's paid off, roll over here. Then the amount that we pay every week on this Home Depot card in May would also then roll over to this credit card. And that was how we were hoping to pay off both of these credit cards by the end of the year. Any extra money we have goes on either of those cards. And then at the end of the year, when those two cards are paid off, our plan was to roll every extra dollar, every payment that we were making on these, plus anything extra, over to this line of credit. And because this is going to be 2024 before we're done this, we project that it will be April of 2027 before we're able to finalize paying off this one, because then the hope is that in 2025, the only two debts we will have will be the line of credit and the consolidation loan. This will be paid off in October. Then we would roll all of the payments on this, plus everything else, over to the line of credit with a goal of paying off by 2027. This may seem like a little bit of a back and forth, like I didn't write them out in the order that they're going to be paid off, and maybe I should have. I just literally started at the top where the list was and wrote everything down. But it makes sense to us, and I guess that's all that matters at the end of the day. But that's our debt. So who is interested in knowing how much debt we have? Let's add it up. All right, folks, there's the real number. $83,668.82 in debt. I want to cry when I see that number. I don't know about you guys, but it really is scary, eye-opening. That reality check is, that's a hard pill to swallow. Knowing that we've done a lot of this to ourselves. This $11,000, that nobody else is to blame for that. $1140, I own that one 100%. My husband, the $82.42, he owns that one. This one is a little bit, I can justify this amount a little bit more because to rebuild our post and beam barn with an appropriate foundation underneath of it would have cost probably $400,000. So a $40,000 line of credit is a little bit easier to swallow than $400,000 loan. And we know that our home, where it is a century home and still has the stone foundation under it, our days are numbered. We are starting to notice some issues with our current foundation, and we know that it is going to take us a lot of money we are going to have to do the exact same process. We are going to have to jack up our house. We are going to have to dig out the foundation, and we are going to have to pour a new foundation. I'm terrified to think of the day when that comes and how much money that is going to cost us. But my hope is that our house holds out until after this date and gives us some time to save up the money. And we'll be aggressively saving towards that as well. But knowing that at the end of this, that if we do need to utilize this line of credit, that we have that money available, and that would literally be the only debt we have. And having started with this amount, I know that that number is not unrealistic to pay off, and we would have a plan, we would have a better foundation of where we were starting. So thank you for coming along on this and this real talk of where we're at. I hope that we are some inspiration to others to know that it doesn't matter what debt you carry right now. It doesn't matter the decisions that you made previously that got you to this point. The thing that matters, and the most important thing that needs to be celebrated every day, is you recognize that there's an issue, that you are taking the steps to make a change and make things better for yourselves and your family. There is no amount of debt that is too big or too small to start to tackle. And I just hope that you will come along for the journey and cheer us on as we have some huge financial goals this coming year. But I also want to cheer you on. So in the comments below, let me know where you guys are at, what your goals are for the future, and if I can give any help at all. I am by no means a financial expert. If I was, we wouldn't be sitting here with almost $84,000 in debt. But I am a real person. I have experienced this. I've gone through it and lived it. And if I can help at all, I would love to answer your questions. My only ask is that you like and subscribe my video and come along for the journey. Anyway, we'll see you on the next one.